When I married Derek, I married the house too. It was a beautiful, sprawling colonial revival built in the early 1900s with a wraparound porch and ancient oak trees that shaded the lawn. It was our dream home, or so I thought. I spent 6 years pouring my heart into that place. I hand-painted the intricate trim in the living room, spent countless weekends in the garden coaxing roses to bloom, and chose every single fixture, every tile, every piece of furniture. That house wasn't just wood and plaster, it was a physical manifestation of my love and my life. Then came the divorce. In the settlement, Derek got the house. The house I had breathed life into. It felt like he'd ripped out a part of my soul. My younger sister, Vanessa, was my rock during that time. She was my shadow, my confidant. She moved into my tiny, sterile apartment, sleeping on the lumpy couch without complaint. She held my hair back as I sobbed over the toilet, brought me ice cream, and listened for hours as I rehashed every detail of my failed marriage. She told me I was strong, that I would get through this, that I deserved so much better than Derek. I believed her. I clung to her words like a life raft. For 10 months, she was the only reason I got out of bed in the morning. She was my hero. Then, one Tuesday, the world tilted on its axis. I was scrolling through social media, a mindless habit, when I saw it. A picture of Vanessa, her hand held up to the camera, a massive diamond ring sparkling on her finger. And whose hand was holding hers? Derek's. The caption read, "He asked, and I said yes. Can't wait to spend forever with the love of my life." My heart stopped. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. I stared at the screen, my mind refusing to process what my eyes were seeing. The love of her life. My ex-husband? I clicked on her profile, my fingers trembling. Photo after photo flooded my screen. Vanessa and Derek laughing in my garden. Vanessa and Derek clinking wine glasses in my kitchen, the one with the backsplash I'd painstakingly tiled myself. Vanessa and Derek posing on my porch swing. They weren't just engaged. They were living in my house. My house. Sleeping in my bed. Building their perfect little life on the ashes of mine. The betrayal was so profound, so absolute, it felt like a physical blow. The past 10 months replayed in my head, but this time it was a horror movie. Every comforting word she'd spoken, every hug, every shared terror, it was all a lie. She wasn't my savior, she was a vulture, picking at the scraps of my life while I was at my most vulnerable. She had been with him the whole time, consoling me by day and sleeping with my husband by night. The rage that followed was a clean, white-hot fire. It burned away the sadness, the grief, the self-pity. While I was rebuilding my life in a showbox apartment with a scenic view of a parking lot, they were living my dream. My dream. And they thought they'd gotten away with it. They thought I was just a sad, broken woman they could discard. But as I sat there shaking with fury, a memory surfaced. It was a faint whisper from the past, something I'd almost forgotten. The day we moved into the house, the previous owners, an elderly couple, had pulled me aside. The old woman, Mrs. Gable, had a mischievous twinkle in her eye. She told me they'd left something behind, something hidden in the far corner of the attic, tucked away under the eaves. It wasn't ours to take, she had said, her voice a conspiratorial whisper. It belongs to the house. It's been there for a very, very long time. We thought it best to leave it be. At the time, I thought it was just a sweet, eccentric story. I was so busy with painting and unpacking that I never gave it another thought. But now that memory felt different. It felt like a key. A key to what, I wasn't sure. But I knew one thing. Vanessa and Derek were celebrating their victory in my house. They were sleeping soundly in my bed, confident that they had won. They had no idea about the secret the house was keeping. They had no idea what was waiting for them in the attic. And suddenly, for the first time in almost a year, I smiled. A real, genuine smile. The game wasn't over. It had only just begun. Thank you for watching. If you want to hear what happened next, make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. You won't want to miss the conclusion to this story. When Derek and I first bought the Colonial Revival on Elm Street, I thought we were buying a lifetime. It wasn't just a house, it was a promise. I saw our future in every single room. I spent 6 years pouring my heart into that place. I picked out the perfect shade of robin's egg blue for the shutters, spent entire weekends with dirt under my nails planting a garden that bloomed in riots of colour, and chose every single piece of furniture with love. That house was my canvas, my sanctuary, my home. When we divorced, the judge gave it to him. Just like that, 6 years of my life, my love, my labour, were signed away on a piece of paper. The loss was a physical ache, a gaping wound that refused to heal. My younger sister, Vanessa, was my angel through it all. She was the one who held my hair back as I sobbed over the toilet, the one who slept on the lumpy couch in my tiny new apartment just so I wouldn't be alone. She brought me takeout, forced me to shower, and listened for hours as I replayed every mistake, every warning sign I'd missed. She was my rock, my confidant, the one person I knew I could count on. For 10 months, she was my shadow, my lifeline. I was so grateful, so utterly dependent on her strength. I thought, at least I still have my sister. Then one day, I was scrolling through a mutual friend's social media. And there it was. A picture. Vanessa, beaming, her hand held up to the camera. On her finger was a diamond ring. Standing beside her, with his arm wrapped tightly around her waist, was Derek. My Derek. My ex-husband. The background was unmistakable. The bay window I had always loved, the oak tree I had planted as a sapling. They were in my house. My home. The caption read, "She said yes. Can't wait to start our lives together in this beautiful home." The air left my lungs. The world tilted on its axis, and everything went blurry. It wasn't just a new relationship. The dates, the timeline. It all clicked into place with a sickening finality. 10 months. They hadn't just gotten together. They had been together the whole time. Every tear she wiped away, every night she spent on my couch, every word of comfort she offered. It was all a lie. A performance. She wasn't comforting me, she was monitoring me. Making sure I stayed broken while she stepped into the life that was supposed to be mine. She was engaged to my ex-husband. She was living in my house, sleeping in my bed, cooking in the kitchen where I had made thousands of meals. She was walking through the garden I had planted. While I was piecing my life back together in a cramped apartment with a depressing view of a parking lot, they were building their perfect world on top of the rubble of mine. The betrayal was so profound, so absolute, it felt like I was being hollowed out. It wasn't just a breakup anymore. It was a conspiracy. My own sister, the person I trusted most in the world, had orchestrated my deepest pain for her own gain. I spent weeks in a daze, cycling through rage and a grief so deep it felt bottomless. How could they? How could she? The happy memories I had of our sisterhood were now tainted, poisoned by this new reality. Every shared secret, every inside joke felt like a manipulation. I blocked them both on everything. I ignored their calls, their texts, their pathetic attempts at an explanation. What could they possibly say? Sorry, I stole your husband and your house while pretending to be your best friend. There were no words for that level of treachery. I tried to move on. I focused on my job, I made new friends, I even went on a few dates. But the injustice of it all ate at me. They had my home. My beautiful, historic house that held all my dreams. They were living the life I had planned, while I was starting from scratch with nothing. It felt so unfair, so cosmically wrong. I would lie awake at night, picturing her arranging the furniture I had picked, hanging pictures on the walls I had painted. It was a special kind of torture. And then, one night, as I was staring at the water stains on my apartment ceiling, I remembered something. Something small and insignificant at the time, but now it felt like a flicker of light in the darkness. When Derek and I bought the house, we met the previous owners, an elderly couple named Mer and Mrs. Gable. They were sweet, a little eccentric. They had lived there for 50 years. While they were giving us the final tour, Mrs. Gable pulled me aside. She told me they had left something behind, tucked away in a dusty corner of the attic. She'd had a mischievous twinkle in her eye. It's a little piece of the house's history, she'd said. It didn't belong to us, so we couldn't take it. We just acted as its keepers. Now that's your job. At the time, I was so overwhelmed with the move, I just nodded and smiled, mostly forgetting about it. We were young and busy and had no time for old stories. I never went looking for it. The attic was creepy and full of spiders, and I had a whole house to decorate. But now her words came back to me with startling clarity. It didn't belong to us. A slow smile spread across my face for the first time in months. The Gables had owned the house for 50 years. If what they left behind didn't belong to them, who did it belong to? My house was a colonial revival, built in the early 1900s. It had a history, secrets sealed within its walls. Derek and Vanessa thought they had stolen my life, my home. But they didn't know the house like I did. They didn't know its stories. And they certainly didn't know what was waiting for them in the attic. They had built their happy little life on a foundation of lies. But they had no idea that the ground beneath them was about to shake. It was time for the house to reveal its secrets. And I was going to be the one to help it. My revenge wouldn't be loud or explosive. It would be quiet, historical, and perfectly, poetically just. They took my house, but they had no idea they had inherited its ghost. And that ghost was about to get a little help from me. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've ever felt betrayed, remember that sometimes the best comebacks are the ones no one sees coming. Follow for more.